Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Smoko podcast. My name is Alexis Armstrong, your host. Nice to meet you. The Smoko podcast is the place to celebrate and highlight women, trans women, and non-binary folk working within STEM and trade occupations. So please tune in, take a break, join us. We are on Smoko. Today, we are extremely lucky to be joined by the lovely Catrina Alexander, who you may recognize from the Instagram community and platform, Black women in construction. And so I cannot wait to talk to her today to all of her experience working within the construction industry, working within trades. We're going to talk all things construction, all things women in trades, and talk a little bit more about her platform and how it started and its mission, because it's absolutely amazing. So, Catrina, it is so nice to see you. Thank you for coming on to the show. It's fantastic to see you.
Well, thank you for having me. This is a long time coming for us to link up. But yeah, thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you for coming onto the show. I really appreciate it. I was wondering if we could maybe start at the very beginning and if we could talk about the story of how you discovered and became aware of the construction industry, because I'm sure that you didn't really grow up knowing that this is what you were going to do. So, how did that happen? How is the story of how you fell in love with this industry?
Construction happened actually by accident because my goal in my life was like, all right, I'm going to get money and I'm going to just build like different orphanages or different like places for kids and stuff. I don't know where that even came from because when you play as a kid, I always was like teacher. So I was like, okay, I could do this. And I was like, all right, I'm going to become a teacher. And I was like, it's going to take forever to get my goals accomplished on a teacher salary. So let's not do that. So I actually went to talk to an advisor in my school and he was like, you can go to work in construction. Hell, I'm like, what? So it was really through trial and error, basically, or really just figuring out something ain't work for me that I got into construction. But I feel like I've always had a knack for building stuff or just working. Because even as a kid, I took mechanical drawing classes, and one of the group projects, the final group project, everybody laughed. So I had to do it by myself, and I had to build like a makeshift Ferris wheel. And I was like, damn it, I'm smart. I could do this. So that's really how I got into it.
I love that, like, self-talk.
Like, I could do this. Because, when you see a blueprint and you've never seen a blueprint before, you're like, this is difficult as hell. How do people even understand it? But you really just sit down and break it, you realize you're limitless. You can really understand construction. It's not hard.
I like that kind of mindset. And I like that idea that you like break it down because it does look really like daunting when you see like a huge blueprint and you see it on like a macro level, right? That you're like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. But I love that as a kid that you were like, no, I got this. Like, I'm smart. I can figure it out. This is what I'm going to do. That was also very good guidance of being like, yeah, if you want financial freedom early on in your career at like 19, 18, the construction industry and trades in general are a wonderful way to get that. But I don't think a lot of people know that.
Because of the fact too that you're getting dirty, people just think, oh, I'm gonna be dirty all day. But there's accountants in construction, there's quality control in construction. People don't have to necessarily think I'm gonna be dirty. I don't want to get dirty and sweaty, but sometimes there's people right now who are electricians who are debt free versus college kids. You know what I mean? They're debt free, they don't move school loans. I was like, I want to be part of that group. The debt free group, that's what I want to be a part of.
As a geologist, I would always get razzed by the miners that they would come and drop off the core and they'd be like, how much debt do you have? Because I got none. And you're like, okay, well, like, thanks, Tom. Like, cool, just drop off the material. Get out of here. Why are you being so rude about it? There's a couple industries, and I think construction is so wonderful that you can be debt-free so early on. And like, I love that you said that there's multiple options in construction. It's not just what you see people on the street or like getting dirty. There's so many different avenues of it. The next one, because people have this idea of construction looking a certain way and only looking one way. Could you walk through what you do? What's a day-to-day look like for you? What's typical day? What's your roles and responsibilities?
Currently, because you know how construction is. Next 1 week you'll do this, next week you'll do that. Currently, I do electrical inspection, electrical coordination. So like for me, my day starts, I'll get a few projects to look through. I have to look through all the plans. I have to make sure everything matches on site. And I go to the site and I have to meet with the inspectors and just break it down so they understand the product and to pass the inspection. And then I pretty much start the same thing again the next day, deal with the building department, dealing with like paperwork, costs, assessments. There's so many different levels of stuff you do during the day or construction, you don't even realize it. 1 minute you're an architect, 1 minute you're working construction, 1 minute you're quality control, 1 minute you're an accountant because someone didn't pay a bill. You're like, wait, time out. I'm not going to keep working if I don't get paid. So it's like a diversified part. Right now, my core responsibilities are doing electrical inspections and just making sure everything matches the plan set. What my responsibility tomorrow, we'll see. I don't know.
I think the thing about construction is it seems really dynamic. Like it seems like it's constantly moving. There's so many sub vendors. There's a lot of things going on. There's always things that are going wrong too, right? It
Yeah.
seems hectic all the time, which is super fun, but it does seem very
Stressful.
changeable.
100%, you're right. Changeable is the word you use, but stressful is the word too. Like with construction, people don't realize there's always something, quote unquote, on fire, as they say, and there's always something to do because in the day,
Mm,
it's a time schedule thing. Construction works well for people who are good at multitasking or good for people who are like, okay, I'm doing this today, but can I learn along the process? That's the one good part about construction. I'm doing electrical inspections today, but 2 days ago, I was learning how to run conduit
mhm.
wire just to make sure that it's sufficient. That's a learning process. That's the best part about
Yeah.
construction. It's a learning.
Is there a favorite thing that you've learned so far? Okay,
Um,
here's another part that would be amazing.
the part that's always changing and learning, that's the best part so far. I would also say just the opportunities. Cause like right
Mm,
now, my job, like I said, is electrical inspections. However, I'm studying to take the building
mhm.
inspector code test so I can be a building inspector for the state. So like it allows me to grow. And like I feel with construction, you don't have
Yeah.
to stuck to one thing all your life. If you're a teacher, you're a teacher. That's the rest for 45 years. At least construction, I'll be like, all right, I did this, I did
Mhm.
this, I did this. I like to diversify, you know what I mean? The options, I would say is the best part.
What is the kind of process for becoming a building inspector? What does that look like? Do you have to do a bunch of school? Do you have to do a bunch of hours? That's fantastic, by the way.
Oh,
Congratulations.
thank you.
It's amazing.
Depending on the state, for example, for my state, I have to have documentation that I worked in construction for 5 years. Maybe like W-2s. You need to get affidavit maybe from
Mhm.
your CPA just to even prove that you're really about it. And then you make you take a test. There's a test that you have to take. Test is like $300. That's how they get you. One, you have to take a couple
Okay.
tests. And each test is like 300. I never priced because I was pissed because the other day I failed it by 2 points. And it wasn't even a points thing, it was a time thing. I'm
Oh,
like, "Oh
that's
my
so annoying.
god." But that's my mistake. That's life, I guess, right?
You won't make it again. Like, you're gonna pass it the second time. That's the thing.
Over $300, I'm definitely gonna now. But, yeah. So after you take the test, you have to just go to your state ordinance and just show documentation. Like I have to get an affidavit from different people. I have to get a credible assessment, basically like a recommendation letter. Because in the day, as a building inspector,
Mhm.
liable for stuff that are getting inspected in people's homes and just in people's every day. So you're more
Mhm.
liable, but it's
Yeah.
worth it, bro. Hopefully it's worth it. We'll see. Cross my fingers.
I think it'll be worth it. I think that's amazing, and I think that's really cool that you can keep going and you can go to the kinda like the next step. One kind of follow-up, or maybe I just don't understand it. When you're getting these positions and kind of these certifications, can you do all construction? Is there a certain type of construction? Or are you basically like for any building that's created within the state?
They have different ones. There's building inspectors, electrical inspectors, plumbing inspectors, and each one, it's all based on time. So like even for the building inspector, I had to prove that I worked there for 5 years in construction. So electrical inspector,
Okay.
you have to prove you worked 5 years in electrical. And it all depends on, there's like different categories for each one. It's fire, building, electrical, and building
Cool.
itself. So you have to just pass the
Okay.
test for it. And they make you go to school because I had to go to school too for this course. Definitely forgot about that.
That's fantastic though. Katrina, on the flip side, like that's one part of like why you love it so much. Yes, it's a little bit stressful, but it's really dynamic. There's so many opportunities for growth. What's something that's on the opposite side of that? What's something that's challenging about your job or your industry?
I guess sometimes being the only woman, especially the only Black woman on site at
Mm,
times, the most challenging thing is you'll go on site. Like one of my past jobs before was a project manager. So then like I'd be on site and then the people would ask, oh, who's in charge? I'm like, me. They're like, huh? So literally I would
yeah.
spin do 360. I'm like, me, I'm in charge. That's who it is. That's who it is. Or like currently, and
Uh,
sometimes I'll get asked questions that they know the answer to already just to double check to see if I know it. And you just have to look like, are you testing this? Is that what we're doing?
yeah, but it's also such an annoying position to be put into that you're
Yes.
like, "Come
I
on,
deal with
excuse
that
you." It's
daily.
But I don't deal with it to the same extent. It's different being, I couldn't imagine being a woman of color in STEM or in trades because there's only like two women and they're mostly white women, right? Like
Yeah.
it is predominantly white, I think, the construction industry and also the geology industry or mining, which is my background. But I can't imagine that. I love the power move of the spin, but it's annoying that you have to do it. And it's annoying that you have to have that. Yes, I'm in charge and I understand I'm capable. I know what I'm doing. I have all of this experience. I have all of these certifications. Like, why don't you just listen to that?
But even still to this day, like, even when I go on site sometimes, they're like, what are you doing here? And it's like, I don't expect to see you. I heard that today. I didn't expect to see you when I just actually got at me. And he was like, he was like a deer. He's like, a lady inspector. I was like, okay, sure.
That's what that means. Cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy. Like, hey, I like that you challenge them to it because I do think like that is one of the only ways that you can get through it of just calling them on it to be like, what did you mean by that? And maybe that's probably why I'm guessing that's why that you started your platform, Black Women in Construction, is probably because you were sick and tired of being the only women in construction. Could you walk through how your platform came to be, how you started this platform and started this organization?
A few years ago, I was looking for a job and I'm like, this is crazy. I can't find a job. All these places say they're hiring, but none of them were taking my resume. I literally got to the point where I was driving and I would pass a construction site and I would just drop off my resume, try to talk to GC. And it was a struggle. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I can't be the only person. And then another GC was like, oh, go
No.
contact this other lady. She might hire you. But the lady was like, yeah, I can't hire you because then you'll take away from my food. I'm like, what? We're all here to eat. You know what I mean? We're all here. Yeah, she said she didn't want too many women on her crew because then she wouldn't get as many gigs. I'm like, but you're a woman who's in charge, isn't it? So she was gatekeeping.
Yeah.
That made me so pissed. I'm not gonna lie to you. After I left that meeting, I was so pissed because I was like, how could someone be so mean? But then I realized it's not even her being mean. Maybe it's her being scared. You know what I mean? Scared for what can be taken from her. I don't know what, scared of growth. I don't know what she was scared of.
But it's still ridiculous. I would have been the same thing. I would have been pissed off if someone had told me that.
I was just like, I just want a job. And I'm like, I have skill set. I have lots of experience. Like I had more experience than people I know who are getting jobs. And I'm like, what am I doing wrong? I'm like, maybe I'm not doing wrong. Maybe I'm just talking to the wrong people. So that's why I started the platform because I was like, I can't be the only person who's dealing with this. I can't be the only person who's been struggling to find a job, struggling to find people like them who are interested in construction or interested in growth. So that's why I started the platform. And from there, it really just literally I have it on LinkedIn, Facebook. And I actually got a trademark.
Yeah.
So like the hashtag Black Women Construction.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. I was trademarked. So it's like, right now I'm just really laying the foundation now. So like later, I really just want to help everybody because I knew what it's like. I know what it's like to have skill set. I know what it's like to be talented and know where to listen to you. I know what it's like to want to speak. And everybody's putting you on because they're so busy with their own world. So like with the platform, like that's why I post jobs all the time. And Black Women in Construction also have a second page, Jobs in Construction. So like I share jobs daily. I share sponsorships. People have gotten deals with Duluth off my page. People have been on reality TV shows from the stuff I've posted from construction things.
Oh my goodness.
It's had its ups and downs. It had some downs, I'm not gonna lie, because sometimes it's frustrating to give so much knowledge and people don't appreciate it. You know what I mean? It's frustrating, I'm not gonna lie. Or it's frustrating when a company will hit me up and they'll be like, yeah, we paid another page to promote this, but we're gonna can you do it for free for us? I'm like, I'm a business, just like anybody else's business. I file taxes. No, we're not gonna do it for free. Like I've had people from big corporations and TV shows like HGTV type brands who told me, we love you, but you don't fit the idea of what we think construction. So I'm like, wait, so you love me, but you don't love me? So what do you mean?
Yeah, again, what do you mean by that? Like explain yourself. Like what does that actually mean?
And the production company told me, we love your page, we follow you consistently. I'm like, how did you even find the page? It's like, one of our workers told us about it. However, we don't really like it fully. We can't really promote that. I'm like, so why'd you even contact me?
This is a waste of my time.
Exactly. Don't tell me I'm good, but not good enough. That's even the part with the whole page premise. Like, I'm tired of people telling you good, but not good enough. No, I'm good. I am enough. Like, I want people to just embody that from visiting our page. You are enough for any job you're applying for. And trust me, there's some guy somewhere, someone somewhere with a GED applying for a job that you're afraid to apply.
Yeah.
I should just apply. My goal was the whole page
Yeah.
to take the fear or the scariness out of construction for people to make it more of a viable opportunity for people. But you can do customer service in construction. Everybody's still
Yeah.
fluid in construction. So I just want people to be more aware of opportunities they have.
I absolutely love your page because I do think like you just mentioned it or you just summed it up perfectly of trying to take away the fear from construction. And you can see that in your page. Like it's
Yeah.
super accessible. There's so many resources. All of a sudden, kind of shining a light on construction, on the jobs that are available, who's available, who you can talk to, what that looks like from someone on the outside. My interpretation of it is that it reminded me a little bit almost of a union board. I feel like this is so much information and it's readily accessible for somebody who maybe isn't in that industry yet. It's wonderful that it's online. It's wonderful that it's like free access. And I'm sure you've probably had a lot of like amazing, I'm sorry to hear that you've had some brands that have come out that you're like, excuse you, what do you actually mean about that? And be a little bit rude. But I know probably that you've had a lot of people reach out and been like, this is fantastic. And you changed my life.
There's a lot of ups, like that part, especially. Like people DM me, thank you so much. You don't even realize the post you did for a job, help me get a
Mhm.
job while I was struggling. It'll be the days like you want to quit and someone will send you a message like, thank you so much. I appreciated that. And those be like
Oh,
that little spark in your charge. You're like, okay, it was
hmm,
worth. Because sometimes,
yeah.
especially, understand with social media and stuff, it's draining. I can't answer every
Mm,
question at once, but I can always do my best to just try to be present for people. Because even with the topics we cover
mhm.
on my page, we covered taboo topics. We even covered how do you handle having your menstrual cycle while being on site. You work in mining. I
Mhm.
know they don't have different female porta potties than masculine potties.
No, that's a huge
So,
issue. Yes.
because it's like conversations that you'll be afraid to talk about on site. We're talking about it. Like, okay, how do you feel about it?
Mhm.
Even if you
Mhm.
read that post with the response, people's responses were wild. I was like, oh my God, there's some of our West down there. But thank you for sharing their thought.
Yes. Yeah.
Wild worlds there. Working on site is different for women. You gotta have like your handy dandy book bag full of supplies, full of hair products, lotion, face wipes. Like it's different.
Yes, it might be like a taboo topic or it might seem a little bit wild, but like it's so important and it's so real. And that's why people resonate with it. Being one of the only girls on site, you're like, okay, well, I have no one to talk to about
Yeah.
this, but I probably do need to talk to somebody because what do I do in this situation? Or like that super embarrassing thing just happened that there was no place to pee. So I peed, but then a minor saw me and I would like to vent about it. It's these kind of situations that don't happen and you don't really have that space to talk about it. It's amazing that your platform exists, that women finally have that opportunity to reach across like a virtual community and find more women who are working in a site very similar to them. Katrina, I'm sure you have stuff on the way. I was wondering if you could talk to what you're working on right now, if there's anything in particular or anything that you're moving towards for Black women in construction.
Hopefully this year or beginning of next year is to have a group made up in different cities and towns just to
Cool.
make a collective to meet people in the area. The thing is, it's just really me running it right now. I know a lot of different
Mhm.
pages that have their stuff. They have a tool. It's not a team. It's just it's just your girl,
Yeah.
me, everything. So I want to be present for people more. I also want to
Mhm.
be able to just maybe have like a more structured website where I have resource connecting. Say you are a Black woman in construction
Mhm.
who's hiring, you can send me a message and I can post it and I can send out in a mass email. My goal this year is just to take out how do I say the space? Everything's virtual. It's like
Mhm.
sometimes I really want people
Mhm.
to feel like they can reach out and touch the page or just find someone direct. So my goal for this year is to
Yeah.
do more in different platforms, like this lovely podcast. Yeah. Not be afraid
Love
to
it.
do interviews. Because my schedule is sometimes so crazy from my 9 to 5, my 8 to 8, way my hours work, that I have to like a lot more time for my business. My goal for this year is to a lot more structured time for my business. So then that I allow people to have more time for their business.
I love the big picture of like potentially having things in different cities. I think that human aspects, but I think that you already do that. Like my favorite part of your page, I like all of it. I like the mission, I like what it stands for, but like what I love the most is your weekly Instagram lives where you ask the community questions and then you post topics because it's something completely different that I don't really have access to in my day to day. I was wondering, do you have a favorite topic? Do you have a favorite theme? Is there anything that you're like super passionate about? Where do those topics come from?
The topics, it really depends on the person. Like, for instance, my last interview live, I had a lovely person, Gabriella Saylor. She's like the president of her electrical union in her area. She's very well diverse in her trade and her skill set. And we were talking electrical construction stuff. Then we started getting to the nitty gritty of life. I was asking her, you might have seen the last part, I was like, how is it dating real construction? And she told the truth. It's hard being a woman dating real construction. Like, no money. You're not a dummy. So you already know people gonna look like, oh God. So it's like, even when you said on the last line, she was like, something she said that resonated but was hilarious. She's after working on site with guys, you lucky hate guys. But they're freaking frustrated. And you realize we know men, but we don't really know men. So you work on site with men and you look crusty and bummy so they don't share anymore. So they're saying everything around you. You really don't know men. Like, we really don't. I just love how it's for my lives. I'm able to mix people's experiences to make it relatable for people. I wouldn't really say I have a favorite line because I've had so many. Like, I've had brother and sister who own a roofing company. I've had a master electrician. I've had someone who's a painter. I had people from Africa, Nigeria, and Ghana talking a lot. Even Australia too. So I wouldn't say I have a favorite line, but if anything, I do appreciate them in live. I appreciate people's authenticity, just being honest. Because let's be for real, when you're on site, you can't really express when you're pissed off. Because then you don't want to be the mad woman or the bitchy woman. Let's be for real. You don't want to be labeled the bitch on site. Sometimes you want to.
No, you can't. You have to bite your tongue.
Yeah.
I think I got labeled like scary twice. And part of me was like, that's like the kiss of death. But part of me was also so proud that I was like, yeah, I am scary because you've been pissing me off. You've been like a thorn in my side all day. I wanted to cuss you out. I wanted to cuss you out way more than this. I was polite to you. I think that's probably why people resonate or why I resonate to them is that they're so relatable and you can just picture what that woman or what that person has gone through that you're like, yep, that's happened to me.
On site, if you say something wrong, if you say something against the norm, everybody, you're going to be talking in town. And men gossip more than women. Let's be for real. So you know how it is on site.
They do.
Yeah.
Yes, it's wild. It blew me away the first time that I got onto a boat that I was like, what did crack me up is I worked on a deep sea drilling vessel for years and they were mostly from Texas. They had these crazy accents and they couldn't whisper at all. I don't know what was about them. They were like country kids. They could not whisper to save their life. So you'd walk in and you could hear your name being like spoken to be like, oh yeah, that's the new girl from Canada. And you're like, yeah, hello, I can hear you. If you're going to gossip, at least be better at it.
What does she do? And then you'll hear the other question, what's the status? What's she going on?
Yes.
Like,
Instantly. That's like the 1-2 punch of who is she? What's going on? Is she single? That is the progression of being a woman on site.
If ever you want to feel hot, go to a construction site with a little bit of makeup. A little bit, not much. Little boost your confidence. I'd be like, you know what? I'm not ugly. I'm cute.
You almost want it to be brought down. You know what I mean? That's at least my experience. Like I did it once and then I was like, oh no, never again. Like this is too much. It was too much. I was like, this is my limit. I don't want to wear makeup on site. That is something like I would love to be able to express myself, but no, too much attention. Not for me. Like I'm an introverted person at my core because sometimes on your platform, you talk about being your authentic person and having real conversations and like having real presentation at a workplace. Any advice to someone who's going through maybe that like confidence or that attention spike and they don't really know how to still stay true to like how they dress and how they act in these industries?
Like you said earlier, being a woman on site has its good pros and cons. When you're too pretty sometimes, you don't get listened to. When you're too ugly, they treat you like the guy. So then you don't get her. So it's like a medium. I think personally, people just have to find what works for them. Sometimes I'll have acrylic nails and stuff. But when I do have nails, I realize I wear gloves all the time on site because I don't want people to think she's girly. She's not going to pick up the tool. She's not going to do this. It's horrible to say, but it's like you really have to just settle with like the most middle version of yourself. You know what I mean? The most bland, but it's like you just have to bring the basic because then, like you said earlier, if you wear makeup on site, you might become a distraction, which really isn't your fault. It's just not your fault. It's like, I look good, but when you wear makeup, it's too much. So it's like, you just have to be your authentic self. I just realized sometimes maybe you just have to be your authentic self without makeup without the glare. Just being
Mhm.
present is enough. Just being present.
Yeah.
And if you are someone who wears long nails and does that, do it. Do what makes you feel comfortable, but just make sure you're at a place where you can be comfortable. It's okay
Yeah.
to be your authentic self, but if you're not in the right work environment, it's hard to be your authentic
Yes.
self. You just have to pick the right work environment.
You almost don't want to tell people that advice because you don't wanna ever be like, I would never stand behind to be like, "Yes, be your, like, middle self," or "Don't be your true self,"
Yeah,
or limit yourself in a way, but I think, what you brought back, I think, is the kinda caveat and the important part of it is only be yourself if you're in a work environment that's conducive to it, that you can be
yeah,
it, that it's safe to be so, that you're not gonna be in any danger, you're not gonna be discriminated, you're not gonna kinda lose any validity in your work, that you're
yeah,
supported by your community and you're supported by your mentors. And then go for it. Be
yeah,
whoever you are and, like, have that presentation, but it's a hard line to walk. I don't know about you, but it changed with me when I first got in. I really did not feel comfortable kinda dressing how I would dress at home, and I dressed in super baggy clothes, and I made sure
yep,
that no one could tell that I was a girl. Every single part of my I was in winter in Canada, so that helped, but every single part of my body was covered except my eyes, and even then, I'd be like, "No one should know that I'm a girl." I, like, made my
yeah.
voice deeper and we're like, "How are you?" I'd be like, "Hi, I'm fine. I'm Alex. Nice to meet you." Like, it was ridiculous. It wasn't until I got a little bit older that I got a little bit more comfortable with myself that I started being more authentic at work.
But in the day, don't deny yourself that you start having what's it called, imposter syndrome, where you just
Yeah,
feel depressed from being there. You're not yourself. Never
yeah,
put yourself to a point where your mental health is struggling. You can
yeah,
find another job. You are not a tree. You can leave. Okay.
yeah.
Not feel stuck. And like, you know what I mean? Just find somewhere that makes you happy. And then even with construction or any
Mhm.
trade, it's trial and error. You'll get a job today and you might work there 3 days and be like, these people are horrible. Like when I was younger, it was real different. I did that too. So I used to have the full suit on and
Yeah,
just the eyes, and even with the eyes, I put
yeah.
no mascara, nothing. I
Mhm,
wear like my ugly glasses so they don't actually catch this. But it's like after a while, you're like, you know what, take it or leave. I'm not switching
mhm.
up. Or even as a black person or black people, we have to do code switching sometimes. You're just like the way I
Mm,
talk to a black coworker would never be the same the way I talk to a white coworker and stuff because I feel as though they wouldn't understand nuances, they wouldn't understand conversations. But then I realized just be yourself. You know what I mean? If this is something you're
mhm.
gonna say 24/7, it's hard to code switch. Like working in different
It's
fields, you realize
draining.
it's
Yeah,
draining. You're like, what did I say?
yeah,
Did it sound
yeah,
right? Just be yourself, because after a while, it'll be
mhm.
draining trying to be someone else. Or just trying to live up to someone's standards, you'll become depressed. Because construction, people don't talk about. A lot of people in construction commit suicide because
Yeah,
of the stress or the imposter syndrome or just feeling like you're not good enough. Because in construction, things are moving so fast. You don't get the pat on the
mhm.
back saying you did a good job. You don't get the praise. You don't get nothing.
No.
Really, let's be for real. You just be like, okay, job closed, next job. So like even with construction, I'll post what is it, the 811 number all the time to have mental health. Who want to call the network because suicide is real. And sometimes you gotta pick a profession that allows you to be yourself where you're not drained. Like even with the whole
Yeah,
imposter syndrome, code switching, or just even being a woman who has to cover up everything. What if you're super girly girly? Like, and now I feel
yeah,
bad every day because I gotta put these all black on. Just find
mhm.
what makes for you. That's really the main
Yeah.
thing you should do.
Changing my appearance and changing who I was, but it is draining, and, like, I think you're completely right, that is a very, very draining thing, and it's almost a limiting thing. You're also operating on a preconceived notion of someone else's bias, that you have no
Yep.
idea how they actually view you, but you're so scared that they're like, "Are they gonna view me as less because of some prejudice that they have, and how can I fight that prejudice by changing myself?" Right? It's an impossible battle. All that it's done is probably just drained you and made you more anxious or more, like, uncomfortable in that situation. I also wanna say thank you as well for bringing up the fact of suicide in construction because it is a huge issue in this industry, and I don't think that a lot of people know that. I also think that it's an industry that can sometimes be looked down upon or not given enough kudos for how much impact and how much work that you guys do. I don't think you guys get enough time off or get enough praise. I don't think that you have enough space for mental health.
Yeah, like for real, like in construction world, I'm up by
Mhm.
5:30. Most people start work at 5:30. I'm lucky I have to be at work by 6:30. So people have it different. People don't realize most construction workers, they're up before dawn. They're up before you even have your first sip of coffee. And they're getting off of work by 7, 8 o'clock at night. And by the time they get off, they're just dirty, tired, want to go to bed. And it's like the repetitive cycle. And let's be for real, construction, they don't do mental health checks. They're not going to ask, how are you feeling today? Nobody asks how you're feeling. No. They just ask if the work is done. So that's really how it works. Yeah. For mental health, because suicide, I think, is one of the highest. Well, it's like one of the highest trades. I'm not sure what the top 5 are, but I know it's up there in the top 5 because suicide happens a lot there. And so does drug problems.
Well, that's usually like hand in hand, at least in like the mining industry. We have these crazy kind of rotations and hours of same as you guys. The drug problems are a huge problem. And a lot of it is just for people to stay awake and just try to stay up and present and being able to work and function for a common rotation would be like 12-hour days, 2 weeks straight. You kind of can't work a 12-hour day for 2 weeks straight without breaks, without either having a lot of fatigue or needing something to boost you up. And I feel like that's usually where people turn to drugs. I mean, alcohol and cigarettes aren't even really considered drugs in these industries. They're considered nothing.
My manager this morning told me she had 5 espressos. I'm like, lady, it's 7 o'clock. What do you mean you have 5 espressos? Yeah. But then you don't even realize with construction, you really do wear and tear in your body and nobody even thinks about your mind. And that's why even with the Black women construction space, I even asked, like, how do you guys handle conflict at work? How do you handle imposter syndrome? How do you handle feeling like you're not good enough? And then with people commenting, it allows other people to see, okay, I'm not the only one suffering. That's what the whole platform is, to know that you are not alone in this process. And I definitely know people in construction who's told me, yeah, I thought about suicide many times. It's not their fault, but it's just so ingrained with them to be working. They know nothing else but work. So even when they don't have work, they're dealing with their demons. I feel like mental health, we talk about it a little bit, but in high demand fields or even like mining, for example, where you're working so much, people don't really care about your mental health. You really have to allocate time for yourself and make it a priority.
I love that you offer that because I think it is so important. And I also think that it's a culture that hopefully will change as more people talk about it, more people give space to it.
Just someone saying that is like a big step. They don't even realize.
And I wanted to speak to a little bit about something else with culture within like construction, within trades, just in general, if we're looking at it on a big macro lens, is the lack of representation within these fields. And the fact that's such a huge problem. And it is such a whitewashed industry. And I was wondering if you could touch on the importance of representation, because I know that it's probably something like it's the reason why Black women in construction exists partly, but it's also you're a mentor probably to so many young women, and you probably know that impact and know that importance because you're that representation role model for a lot of people in your life, probably.
It's actually nervous saying I'm somebody's role model. I'm just trying to be the best version of me. Honestly, I just want to be the best version of me. Because you know why? Sometimes it didn't matter. That's it. Because, a few years ago, I remember I went to the first job interview and it was like for an assistant project manager job. And there was a lady, I love her to death. I still talk to her, Laura. But she was Black. And I was like, Black women actually work in management? Like, I was excited. I didn't care about the job, honestly. Go to the interview, I'm like, so what do you do? I'm like, I X'd out everybody else in the interview, started asking her questions because I'm like, wow, it's just so cool to see someone who's like me, who's cool like me, who gets it. Because, when you go to work sites, most of the day, I'm the only woman there, the only Black woman there for. I'm dark skinned, I got locks, I already look different, you know what I mean? So I already know I stand out in a bunch. It's okay to stand out, but sometimes I just wish I had someone who gets me.
Was there with you?
Yeah, that's why representation does matter, because sometimes maybe I'm just having a hard ass day, or maybe I'm just PMS and I need someone to vent to. Someone who sees, like what I'm going through, or just sees me. Sometimes it's just important to have people who can see you. Like being seen or valued is very important. I know people go, what does she mean by being seen? But just meaning that I can be my whole self and not be scared to be my whole self. If you work in companies where, for example, you're the only woman on the mining site, you're not going to tell them you have a migraine because they're going to be like, oh, she's going through her woman problem, It's like a whole dramatics about it. So like with that, I just know representation matters because sometimes I just want to see someone who looks like me, who inspires me, to know that I can move up in this career field, honest. Because then it's like, all right, if I work here, what's the point of me even working here if I know 5 years from now, I'm never going to get sold. I'm never going to
Yeah.
value.
Where am I going to go? Where's kind of the next future evolution for
Yeah.
me if I can't see it? If it doesn't
If I
look
don't,
like it exists already.
if I don't see it, I'm be like, oh, this ain't even going to happen. I'm not, I know
Mhm.
100% I'm not going to give my all to the job because I'm going to want to look for somewhere else where I can feel happy, to be seen.
Be yourself. I think it's funny that when I first asked that question and you were like, oh, I'm just trying to work on being the best version of myself. I feel like that's how you become a role model. It's like that is exactly like probably why you are a role model to somebody
Yeah.
else. So like I
I'm
feel
gonna
like
go,
doing that is probably already making the groundwork of someone else that's probably going to come onto site, right? And be like, oh my goodness, there's a Black woman in construction. That's crazy. I did not know.
when I see a woman on site, I'm like, friend, where are you? Like, everything else that maybe I'm start top of your head, like, oh, this is better woman. And I'm like, I'll really just go up and start talking to them. They'd be like, who is this lady? I'm like, I don't know. What's your name, lady? Like, we become best friends. Even when you're on site and you know how representation matters, being someone's
Mhm.
friend on site does matter. Like, even like it goes back to the
Mm.
mental health part of it. You never know how far your hello can be for someone else. So just even like when people think about representation, don't think it's so structured. Oh, it's just race, it's just sexual. Just be present. Being present
Mhm.
makes so much difference in someone's day you don't even realize.
I love that kind of call out of any single woman on site of being like, "Oh my god, we're gonna be best friends," because, like, I'm guilty of it too. Like, as soon as
Yeah.
somebody comes in, I'm like, "Oh my goodness, hello."
Hey, you want some snacks? I got snacks. I'm prepared. Like, for this. I'm waiting for this.
Yeah, yeah, I come in really heavy with the energy of, like it's a lot to be like, "Would you like to have a sleepover? Would you like, what's your favorite color? I made you a bracelet. I made a club. We're already
Yeah,
there." Like,
we're sisters from different mothers. We're sisters. That's-
it's so freaking powerful, right? Like, it really is to have that, like, community and have that instant representation and have that instant person that you're like, you understand it, you get it, and you know it's reciprocated too. They're feeling the same way, and they're
yeah.
usually just as jazzed up to be like, "This is great. I've also made a bracelet."
Sometimes people just need a friend because work is hard. Imagine being at work and nobody's your friend, nobody talks to you. Like, that sucks. So that's why you gotta work. It's like Katrina, you're too damn chipper at 8 o'clock. Take it down. I'm like, oh, I didn't drink coffee. They're like, you sure? I'm like, no, I didn't drink coffee. I'm just ready because
Mhm,
it
mhm.
just sometimes a smile and a hello could go so far. And even with like it just be
And
women, even there might be a guy on site who become like your best friend on site. Sometimes you just have to find an
mhm,
ally. Don't be afraid of saying hello. I realize we're in construction, we're afraid of speaking out. We're afraid of just saying something because we're afraid we're going to say the wrong thing. But sometimes saying nothing is
mhm.
the wrong thing. Not
Yeah.
speaking up is worse sometimes than saying.
That's gonna it brings us to the next one. My last one is what's something that you learned during your time of trades? Maybe it is like that ability to speak up and say hi, or maybe it's something different. But what's something that you really didn't realize when you first started out? What's something you had no idea about and then you had to learn along the way? And it's this like big sticking point for you.
That's a good question. Thank you for that question. That's what I'm thinking about that one. Something that I learned is that I can't be afraid to learn. That's something real big I'm
Mm,
learning, or just not learning, but I'm living it actually. Because I can't be afraid to
mm,
learn. Because you can think you know something, you've done the same thing 50 years, but then there's new technology, there's new information, or there's just an easier way to do it. You can't be so headstrong that you're like unpenetrationable wall. You know what I mean? Because then you'll never have
mhm.
to say. Like even on my job
Yeah.
right now, everything now they do is digital. And some of the older, quote unquote, teammates, it's hard for them to understand because they're so closed off to learning. So
Stuff.
you should never be stuck because the minute you become stuck in your ways, the minute you'll be stuck in the dollar pay grade that you're at. That's the minute you'll be stuck to the opportunities you have. Being okay with being an apprentice. You can be you can have a skill set 40 years, but you can be okay learning something from the new person. That's the greatest thing I learned.
Mhm.
Like just being open to learn, just being open to learning from my mistakes. Because, like you
Mm.
said, well, I'll mess
To
up.
bring it back.
Uh, and I'll be
Yeah.
embarrassed, or I don't want to talk about it. But reality is, maybe I do need to talk about it so then I'll know what points did I not see. Sometimes you're tunnel
Yeah.
vision, you're just stuck. So I want to be able to just be receptive. Best
Mm.
thing I've learned is be open to learning and just be learning to be myself, honestly. Just like you said
There's
earlier, you're an introvert, but you're doing a podcast, which makes you an extrovert. You got to learn to pick and choose when you want to be there. So you just got to learn
mhm.
who you are. That's really the best advice I would say. Learn who you are because everything else is going to fall into place. Hate it or love it. They're going to fall
Mhm.
into place.
I love both of those answers because I also think that they're one and the same a little bit. Like, I think learn who you are, it comes with time, but I also think it does come with messing up. Like, it comes
Yeah.
with trying, putting yourself out there, and then probably getting it wrong the first couple times, and then being like,
Yes.
okay, like, what is the next step? What do I have to learn? What do I have to do better? If I'm going to try this again, what's that going to look like? I love that answer. And Katrina, it's just been so lovely chatting with you. It was so
Thank
nice.
you, Alexis. This has been great. That's actually one of my goals for next year to get on my podcast league. Like you. That's one of my goals too for next year for Black
Oh my
Women
goodness.
Construction. To be structured and
Okay.
like I love it. I love it. So I'm
I love
excited.
you mentioned something that I kind of chuckled at almost that you were like, oh, just like a hello and just you never know your impact to somebody else. And I was like, I don't know if Katrina knows that this made my night. Like this one
So,
interview. I've had so much fun. I was like, I don't
oh,
even know if she knows like the impact that she's making right now. So like just thank you so much. It was so
thank
lovely chatting with you. It was so nice meeting you and being able to hear more about your platform and Black women in construction. And just thank you again.
thank you so much for having me. Hopefully your viewers and listeners love it. And make sure they follow
Mm.
Black Women in Construction on all platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, website, everything.
If you're listening, thank you so much. Please do what Katrina says. Go follow everything right now because she's amazing and she deserves it. And we will see you next Wednesday. Thank you so much for listening. We are the Smoko Podcast. Bye.